Multiple businesses in Kenosha, Wisconsin have been looted, vandalized, and reduced to rubble over the past 5 days. Store owners have watched their livelihoods go up in flames. Cars and other personal property have been destroyed. Innocent people have been left bleeding in the street. And God only knows how many tax dollars are going to be spent cleaning up this mess. But apparently, we're all supposed to sit back and watch as the zoo animals are allowed to run wild, and yet another community is burned to the ground for racial equality or something. Because after all, according to CNN, this is a fiery but mostly peaceful protest. So there's a mostly peaceful riot raging in Kenosha, Wisconsin that's now left multiple stores looted, burned, or smashed in, countless cars reduced to a pile of ash, and even a couple of people dead. It all started when 29-year-old Jacob Blake, a violent felon with an outstanding warrant and a criminal history long as the day, was shot multiple times in the back while resisting arrest and trying to get into an SUV where police say he had a weapon. But apparently we've reached this place in our society in which no black man can ever be shot by a police officer, no matter the reason or circumstances, without thousands of people deciding that the only automatic response is to steal things and light the town on fire. Because nothing says we're not criminals, stop shooting us quite like smashing in a store window and robbing it before dragging someone out of their car and beating them senseless in the street, right? Makes sense. A car dealership was set on fire. The blaze eventually spread to a nearby church whose marquee had actually read Black Lives Matter, proving that all the virtue signaling in the world will not save you from this mob. Multiple businesses were looted and torched for no reason. An elderly man tried to defend a business using a fire extinguisher after looters broke in and ransacked it, and they beat him unconscious on the sidewalk. Linda Carpenter's furniture store that she'd owned for 40 years was completely destroyed. At one point, a Black Lives Matter thug pulled out a handgun and pointed it directly at the Blaze reporter Elijah Schaefer, who was out there doing what the liberal media cowards wouldn't and telling the story. The guy told him that's what the mob would do to any cops who showed up at the scene. Of course, the media went insane when a married couple stood on the porch of their own home with legally owned firearms after rioters broke down the gate to their community. That story was in the headlines for days, and they were actually charged with a crime. But now here we've got a thug tromping around with a gun, shoving it in people's faces at point-blank range, and nobody says a word because he's part of a radical left-wing protest, and God knows we can't hold them accountable for anything. Now, after Don Lemon complained that the riots were hurting Democrats in the polls, CNN finally decided to show up on the scene, of course about 5 days late. Here's their headline describing fiery but mostly peaceful protests after police shooting, as their reporter stands in front of a bunch of burning cars like, we can't see all the destruction and chaos with our own two eyeballs. Because at the end of the day, all CNN cares about is the polls. Gotta protect the polls. Do people not see this? It's not like it's being carefully hidden, tucked away in some back corner of the internet where nobody can find it. It's right here. This is the left's America. This is happening in Democrat-controlled areas that have been cesspools of violence and poverty and despair for decades. These places were powder kegs ready to blow, and now they have. Stores are being trashed and destroyed, and the innocent people who own them, who pay their bills and feed their families with them, they're being left to pick up the pieces alone. All the people whose cars have been torched and now don't have a way to get to work, I guess they're just screwed, right? All the employees at that car dealership that was just set on fire, the people in that community whose only food source is the grocery store that's just been ransacked, best of luck to them because none of their city leaders give a crap how this is obliterating lives. Just like they didn't give a crap that shutting all the stores down because of a flu bug would actually wreck people. They don't care, and neither do the media. The only time they care is when a white guy with a gun ends up shooting a couple of rioters who were beating him over the head with a skateboard. Because some people have now decided that the only way to restore any semblance of order is for people to start taking control of the situation themselves. Because our cities are burning. Innocent people are getting hurt, and their leaders are nowhere to be found, holed up in their mansions, surrounded by their own personal armed guard like Lori Lightfoot up in Chicago. Coward. And then people are shocked when somebody gets shot. Like that's not exactly what you get when violence and chaos and anarchy are allowed to run rampant in the streets. Anyone who didn't see this coming is either blind or an idiot. But see, this is what leftists want. They don't like it when cops squash the riots. Then they don't like it when Donald Trump sends in the National Guard. Then they don't like it when armed citizens defend their own communities because nobody else will. Leftists want chaos and violence and destruction to run unimpeded through our streets. They want to burn it all down because they want to be the ones to rebuild it. And that's your Reality Check, America. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page, like us on Facebook and Twitter, and stay sane out there.